a heart attack. Okay? I'm not kidding. I'm legit. If you have a low range of adaptability and you jump behind somebody, it's going to make the heart rate jump up so fast you end up with a heart attack. Okay? So that's a low range of adaptability. All right? So we want a high range. We don't want that. That's like somebody just walking, exercising, all of a sudden they fall to the ground with a heart attack. Right? Or the guy working it, heard about the guy shoveling the snow and having a heart attack. Low range of adaptability. Now, a medium range patient, they can usually adapt with medications, with pills and things to try and help them through. They're still able to function, but they typically have to use a lot of medication. What we're looking for, guys, is a wide range of adaptability. The ability of our heart and body to adapt to any environment, no matter what it is. Okay? Whether it's a stressful environment, whether it's a relaxed environment, whether somebody comes and says boo and your heart goes crazy or whatever it might be, you should be able to adapt to that environment. Okay? Now, when you receive a chiropractic adjustment, a corrective adjustment, which is different from a general chiropractic adjustment, different than the kind we do here, when we do the adjustment, it causes the heart rate variability to improve. Okay? And we actually have the technology to measure it on the nerve scan tester. It's called the heart rate variability tester. And you read any research and everybody's all hyped up on that particular thing. And this is what does it. We want the highest range of adaptability by getting the nervous system able to adapt to that environment. So how do we do this? How do we create the widest range of adaptability? Well, it's very simple through this testing right here. Okay, now this is the nerve test that we do in the beginning. Color scheme. White is perfect, the widest range of adaptability. Your body can adapt to any environment, no matter what it is. It's ready to rock, it's ready to roll. Greens and blues indicate the serious damage, reds are bad, and blacks, guys, are horrible. They simply don't function. Okay? So this is somebody who has a very low range of adaptability, susceptibility to just any number of things, whether it's simple back pain, neck pain, headaches, heart attack, stroke, cancer, diabetes, the list goes on. So we've got to get a higher range of adaptability. So this is one of my patients. That was her first scan in July. Now notice what's happening. So you're getting better? So there's January, and there's the end game right here in June. See that? So what do you think is happening to this patient's range of adaptability? How are they able to do things in their environment? When they're 99 years old, are they able to do whatever they want? You see, guys, it's so simple. I mean, I wish I could express to you what my heart thinks every time I see this. I want you guys so healthy right now that you can do whatever you want right now. But through the course of your lifetime, if we maintain this level of adaptability, when we get here to the end game at 100 years old, you're still doing everything you want to do. And in between, guess what you had? A great life. Because you've done anything and everything you wanted without any concern for what the consequences are, because your body's adaptability is huge. Whether you're water skiing with your grandchildren, or going on a big hike, doing a 14er at 99, or whatever it is for you. See, that's the thing. I can't tell you what your life is about, but I want you to, you're writing this book of life, and I want it to be written in whatever you want it to be. Okay? So that's what this is all about, getting the range of adaptability. So if a vertebrae becomes misaligned, here we see it, the subluxation, the brain can't get the electricity to the body right, and the range of adaptability for that organ breaks down, and it becomes diabetes if it goes to a pancreas. It becomes a heart attack if it goes to the heart. It causes irritable bowel if it goes to the colon. And that's a poor range of adaptability. If we get the nervous system maximized, the brain will connect and the body will be healthy. It's that simple. Okay? So that's the nervous system component. So we've got to get our minds right. We've got to be ready to fight. Then we got to make the connection into the body. So it's very simple, the safety pin cycle. This is the body, that's the brain. The brain and body talk to each other back and forth, from the environment back out, all the time. This is ease of life. When you break the connection or subluxate, you get dis-ease or disease. You follow? It really is that simple. If we can reestablish that connection, allow the brain to talk to the body is in ease. Now and forever until you have a great life. These are cool studies. This is a brain scan that lights up when you do things. So it's really a cool technology. It's an MRI, and it's called a functional MRI, fMRI. And what they do is they can find out what parts of the brain lights up when you do certain activities. They can find out when you do things, when you, wiggle your foot, things happen. Okay, now this is crazy. This is a brain of somebody that did this. That's all they did. And how many areas of the brain lit up? A boatload. Why? Because the brain was in dis-ease. There was no connection. The brain that sent the information up and down, and it's looking everywhere on how to move a pinky. How do you move a or index finger? I don't know how, so I have to run all over the place in the brain trying to find how to move a pinky. Now, how much work does this take? How much energy are you consuming? How tired are you at the end of the day? Because how many times do you do that with your pinky and every other thing you're trying to accomplish? And you wonder why you go home exhausted every single day. Now watch this. One corrective adjustment. Look what it did to the brain. It focused. It went, that's the area for the pinky right there. Is that cool? Yeah. And they thought, this is crazy. So what did they do? They brought in another person. They said, let's try this again. And they lit them up, moved the pinky, and adjusted them again. Look. Do you see how it works? See, it's amazing when you just allow the body to do what it was intended to do. The brain talks to the body talks to the brain, and you have the great life in between. Cool? What about nutrition? Now I'm going to give you some hints on brain health, but we'll talk about shopping. Because what we tend to do, one of the challenges we have is that we tend to take shortcuts because we run out of what? Money and time. Say time. He said money, but time is there too. So, guys, we have to save some money. So find coupons, find deals. So make sure you're ready for it when you're shopping. Add more fruits and vegetables to your meal plan. If you do nothing else, add vegetables. And what kind of vegetables? What number are they, guys? Number what? Number 9s. For you rookies, what does that mean? When you go to the grocery store, you run the UPC code, the first position is a number 9. That means organic. Okay? And your organic meats, you should be eating organic meats, right? Now, if you have a choice, if it's a budget issue and the choice between meat and vegetable, which one do you buy? Vegetables. Negative, you buy the meat. You buy the meat product, organic, and you buy the conventionally grown vegetables. Because of toxic bioaccumulation. Okay? We're at the top of the food chain, right? So we eat what everything else eats, right? The cow ate this, and the fish ate that. So all this becomes toxically bioaccumulated. And I'm terrible at this math, but it's like the fish eat the algae. What's in the algae? No, all the crap we threw in the ocean, the plastics and the pesticides and all the heavy lead and all the junk we threw in the ocean. So the fish eats that, and it has to eat like 300 pounds of plankton to make one fish. Okay? And then what happens? Well, the little fishies get eaten by what? The bigger fishies. And the bigger fishies by the bigger fishies, and then we go to harvest the fish and we get the biggest fish possible. So how much toxin are we getting with the big fish? Okay, you see, that's why toxic bioaccumulation. I know that math isn't even close to right, but you get the idea, right? The little fish eat the bigger fish eat, and so on. Okay. All right. Beans and lentils. Eat more of those. But what do you not want to do with a bean and a lentil? Eat it. Simply boil it. Okay? What you need to use is a pressure cooker. Inside of beans and lentils is something called lectins, and lectins are binding, and they remove all your trace minerals and a lot of your nutrients. So when you're eating beans, make sure you use a pressure cooker to completely destroy all the lectins. Okay? Soaking and boiling is but pressure cooker nukes it all. So if you just, and the plot to mention, the beans are yummier if you do the pressure cooker. They're way more tasty. Okay? So use your pressure cooker to cook those. Okay? And never buy processed foods, if at all possible. Okay? Make sure you get your stuff raw. The closer to the soil you get something, the healthier it's going to be. Okay? Tips for home use. Cook and freeze. Grow on your own. Cook more than you need. Because then what do? You put it in the refrigerator, right? And then what? When you open up the fridge, what are you looking for? I don't want to make anything. I wonder if I can just have some Cheetos and maybe some soda pop. Oh, am I killing it? I'm flushing through. Damn, program's over. You guys are excited, man. Look at all that, see? All that stuff we got to talk about. Where am I? Right there, okay? No, I'm not. I'm still at 1. There we go. All right, leftovers. So what do you do? Now, what do you store food in? Glass, no plastic, because the BPA we learned the last program leaches into the food. Okay, never cook in plastic and microwave. If at all possible, don't use a microwave. You're better off to reheat it on the stove. Okay, but again, make more so when it's there you can go, well, I can have last night's dinner again. I mean, I literally make way more, and we have stacks and stacks and stacks in our fridge of various types of meals, so I can just grab it and go. That way I'm not tempted to just say, I think I'll just go to Burger King for lunch. You see what I mean? So that's the better way to do it. So that way you keep eating healthy food for your body. Tips at the store, stock up. Buy big amounts of things if they're available. Spot the bargains, compare labels, and look for deals at farmers markets, but be careful at farmers markets because they still use pesticides and herbicides, right? Okay? So, what not to buy at a grocery store? Salad dressing. Never buy salad dressing from a grocery store. Why?
Monosodium glutamate.
Well, that's one thing. Aaron's always facing that way, talking into the background. Okay? But your bad oil, mainly canola and all your vegetable oils. Stay away from it, right? It's olive oil that you should be using on all of your dressings. Pre-shedded grated cheeses, deli meats loaded with nitrosamines, all guacamole, hummus, and salsa. Most of the time, they're not even using avocado in your guacamole. It's usually green beans, okay? And exotic produce, you don't know how it's processed, okay?
Shredded cheese. I'm just curious about that.
The shredded cheese, the main thing is because of the cow. Where did the cheese come from? Okay, what's that? It is, but most of your processed cheese, they use that because it will because what's going to happen to cheese? It molds, right? But they put all the chemicals in to keep it from molding. So you're better off to just buy one of those quick graters and they'll grate through real fast. Same idea, because the challenge you run into is it's processed. Remember, the closer it is to God's hands, the better off it is. The closer it is to man's hands, the more dangerous it becomes. Right? Because we do all this stuff to it. We add things in. Anything that's processed, that's the main thing for all those things. So if you can make your own salsa, hummus, and guacamole, more the better. Okay? So, what do we need to eat to make sure our brain, what we eat becomes our brain. Okay? So we got to make sure we're building a healthy brain by putting good nutrients in through the stuff I taught. Okay? But, neurotransmitters. What are neurotransmitters? Neurotransmitters are, they function to allow our brain and body to do certain tasks, mainly emotional type things. Too much, now this is important, either too much or too little. You know, when you get serotonin, what is serotonin? What kind of a hormone? It's the happy hormone. It makes us feel happy. That's what we think. So more must be better, right? It's not true. High levels of serotonin or low levels of serotonin are going to make you feel depressed. So if you go to your medical provider and they give you, they ask you a bunch of stuff and you say, I'm depressed, what are they going to do for you? Give you an antidepressant, which is going to keep more serotonin around. What if your problem is too much already? You see what I'm saying? So that's all back to the testing, trying to figure out, is it causing troubles? So stress, depression, anxiety, passion, sex, energy, drive, that's what neurotransmitters are about. Kind of important things to the human experience. Can we agree with that? So we got to make sure they're perfect. Now, again, I keep stressing this. You know, you have norepinephrine, you have dopamine, you have serotonin, just to name a few of the neurotransmitters. But the challenge is they do some of the same things, okay? So you have overlap. So for example, over here, the happy hormone, if you get too much or too little serotonin, compulsions, obsessions, and memory, but then if you overlap it with dopamine, it turns into appetite, sex, and aggression problems. Then if you get them all mixed together, you end up with mood and cognition, you can't think straight, and you're going crazy, right? So we have to make sure the best thing we can do for us is to do the testing. So I'm going to encourage everybody to get the testing run. Okay? Get the testing, we'll know exactly what your deficiencies are. Now, like I said at the beginning, the questionnaire is pretty accurate. So if you can't afford the testing, I'd rather see you get the supplements through the questionnaire. Are you following me? So get the testing if you can afford it. If you can't, get the supplements through the questionnaire. All right? So this is what we're talking about. This is tonight. And these are the neurotransmitter pathways. You have tryptophan, tyrosine, and glutamine. That's the beginning place of all neurotransmitter hormones. And they require certain things to process through and become things. Serotonin, the happy hormone. Melatonin is the sleepy hormone. Glutamate is called an excitatory hormone in your brain. So it makes you think clearly and focus and be able to remember. And GABA is the chill, inhibitory. So I need to calm down and relax and go to sleep hormone. Okay? Dopamine, that is the pleasure hormone. That makes you feel pleasure. Norepinephrine is noradrenaline. Just think of the word adrenaline. And epinephrine, that they're both adrenaline, but this one is more long-standing. So the more higher the norepinephrine is, the more long-standing the stress is. Okay? Make sense? So we've got to get these things processing properly. So stress. So stress. What are the 3 types of stress in the world? Who can tell me? Go. Emotional stress. We said everything. That's a good answer. Okay, that's a good one. Emotional stress. Money, jobs, kids, traffic, things that make you go, ah! Right? What's the other 2 kinds of stress? Because it's still stress. Physical stress. How about cell phone technology doing this, right? Lifting, twisting, sitting, desk work. They say desk work, sitting is the new smoking. Desk work is just about as dangerous as smoking cigarettes in terms of equivalence. Okay, so if you're a smoker and you sit at a desk, guess what? Not a good scenario. Okay, and the last kind of stress is, we said emotional already. Emotional, physical, and mental. That's emotional, mental. Chemicals. Okay, on the extremes. On one end, you've got what? You've got caffeine. Okay, which is just like stress, right? You get too much of triple shot of espresso, you act like Dr. Ray normally does. Oh my God. Okay, then on the other end, you've got alcohol, which is a central nervous system depressant. So it makes your system go south, okay? And then everything else in the middle. That could be anything from, anything a medical doctor could prescribe, okay? But I just use those as the extremes to kind of give examples. But every chemical you put into your body will impact these neurotransmitters and cause trouble. Now, this is the point I was trying to make about that blood-brain barrier part. This is a picture of a normal brain. Now right here, that is called the hippocampus. Now if you think about what different parts of the brain do, the campus. Campus has a library. What's in the library? All your memories. This is the hippocampus. This is where the memories are stored inside the body, in the hippocampus. Okay, now with that, I said remember the C-shaped deal? That's what we're talking about. Now this is a brain of a post-traumatic stress person right here. Now I want you to look at it. I'm going to move the dot again. See the circle, or see how it's kind of round? You guys see that? Now look at this one. See how it looks like an egg? See the difference? See the egg look? So what's happening to his hippocampus? It's dying, it's shrinking. And why? Because the blood-brain barrier is there. It's not there at that particular spot. And so all these chemicals and toxins and traumas and stresses and all the things we're doing is causing your hippocampus to shrivel up. Okay? Now what does that do? The first target of Alzheimer's disease is to attack the hippocampus induced by stress. Okay? Now the challenge is increased cortisol levels, decreased neural survival. So stress causes cortisol to skyrocket. Okay? In the presence of all of this, it causes what's called beta amyloid toxicity, and that's what they find when they do a dementia patient, Alzheimer's. They do a biopsy. That's what they're looking for, is that beta amyloid toxic buildup. And they can diagnose you as Alzheimer's. And then it causes neurofibrillary tangles, and they say just suffer and die and be miserable. But guys, it's preventable if we just take action now. That's the key. We don't want to end up here. We want to make sure we get where we're supposed to be. Isn't that a horrible picture? Okay, so the biggest thing we got when we talk about a lot of neurotransmitters is the adrenal glands. Okay? Now, the adrenal glands, when we get under that anxiety, whether it's physical stress, emotional stress, or chemical stress, stress pulls everything that way in the adrenals. Okay? So it forces your adrenalines to skyrocket, right? Because you're stressed out, or somebody jumped and said boo behind you, or whatever. Your adrenaline skyrockets. Now when that happens, cortisol goes up. Why would cortisol go up with stress? Any idea? Okay? Cortisol causes the mobilization of fat and the mobilization of sugar. Why? Because this is fight or flight, isn't it? That's the adrenaline response, the classic fight or flight. I need a lot of sugar to fight, right? I need a lot of fat to fight, and I need my adrenaline so I can make this happen. So it pulls everything in this direction. Well, the problem, if you start pulling too hard, you start depleting out your progesterone, especially if you're older. When you're younger, you can kind of get away with murder with stress, because you start manufacturing those sex hormones in the testicles and the ovaries. And that's what happens. See, here's what happens. When we're under chronic stress, pulling everything this direction, you deplete out these adrenals. Now, you're living on borrowed time. Because what happens ultimately is that as you get older as a woman, your ovaries start to shut down. And what's supposed to happen, you're supposed to pick up estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone from your adrenals. But you've been destroying them for years, so guess what you get to have? The nightmare of menopause. Okay? It's supposed to be an easy transition. But if you don't have any of these hormones, what's that going to feel like? Hot flash, memory problems, all the horribleness that you experience from the menopausal problem. And it's not supposed to be like that. Okay? So we've got to make sure that we don't have this stress happen. So it pulls away from this side. It's going to lower testosterone, low T centers. Yeah, let's go inject the low T because we have low T. Why do you have low T? See, that's the part that makes me crazy about medical in general. They never ask the important question. Why? Why do you have low T? Why do you have low progesterone? Why do you have high cortisol? Why are you having all these problems? No one ever thinks about that. See, we got to get to the whys. That's what the difference is here. We're trying to figure out why, fix it, so we can build an epic life, right? So, let's talk about what happens. We go for a long period of time under stress, we burn out the adrenals. You don't have any energy because the adrenal glands are dead, right? Now, what you've done though, the stress has turned on the machine that generates epinephrine, adrenaline. Okay, so think about it like a chipper in your backyard. Okay, you turn it on, and you have a lot of leaves. That's your adrenaline. You shove it into the chipper, and it's spitting out adrenaline during the fight experience, right? And then the fight's over, you stop putting stuff in the chipper, and you turn it off. What if you turn it on, and you just run it forever? Pretty soon there's no material. So you're exhausted most of the time, and you stagger through your day until finally the body manufactures some adrenaline, gives you some raw material for the chipper, and puts it in. You go from nothing to crazy. How do you feel? An anxiety, panic attack. You're sitting there reading a book, and all of a sudden you feel like you're fighting a bear. It's called a panic or an anxiety attack. I know we could fix the adrenals, or we can give you Xanax for the rest of your life. I don't know which one sounds better. Make sense? Okay? So no energy. Okay? Then we don't have any E or T in the DHEA, so we have infertility if you're younger, or lack of sex drive if you get older. Aldosterone, it's going to affect, it's the hormone of your trace minerals. You'll crave salt, so you're the person on the, they have salt and they just go, what are you doing? I don't know, man, but I love salt. That's because your aldosterone is burned out because you've burned out your adrenals, and your blood pressure's typically skyrocketed. And the last thing, the cortisol, because of the cortisol response, we're mobilizing all this sugar and all this fat. Where's it going to go if you don't use it? Right here, right here, right here. And I don't know why I'm fat. I exercise and eat right, but I can't seem to lose weight. It's because your adrenals are a train wreck. Okay? Make sense? So supplement number one, on your paper. Can I borrow this one for a second? Oh, sure. This one right here, okay? These are the recommended supplements, okay? Now, if you don't have one of these, guys, can you pass some of these out? I got a lot of people going, I don't have one of those, okay? So if you pass those out, raise your hand if you don't have one of these, okay? The entire left, okay, a lot of them. So let's pass those babies out if we could. We'll get them to you, okay? But the supplements, these are the recommended supplements from tonight's class, okay? So, adaptocrine. Adaptocrine is an herbal adaptogenic supplement. Now, what's an adaptogen? An adaptogen is an herb that takes something and brings it to neutral, okay? So, like, for example, if you're too hyped up and spizzed up and you're like adrenaline jump, like, oh my God, all the time, this will chill you out. Okay? If you're absolutely exhausted all the time, guess what this will do? It'll bring you up. So it brings you back to neutral. Does that make sense? So this is going to help support the adrenals. Raise your hand if you don't have one of these. Okay? Make it easy on everybody. Got it? Everybody got it? We're getting them. We're getting them to you. Hang on tight. Okay? There's one over there. My Libya. Libya needs one. Libya. Got it? Raise your hand if you don't have one still. Everybody got it? Back row, we got one in the back, and that's everybody.
Okay.
All right, everybody got one? Cool. All right, so adaptocrit is the first one. And again, just to review, because everybody's kind of messing with the papers, if you're spizzed up and too much adrenaline going crazy, this will calm things down. If you're burned out, exhausted, and tired, this will also bring you to neutral. So it brings you back to neutral. It helps to heal your adrenals is what it does. Okay? Now, this is the typical cortisol melatonin response. Now, cortisol and serotonin are opposites. Okay? They tend to be in opposite patterns. So this is a healthy pattern. This is you sleeping through the night, a little blip right there, and then all of a sudden, first thing in the morning when you wake up, you get a skyrocket of cortisol. Why? Cortisol is a stress hormone. Why would you be stressed out first thing in the morning? Anybody help me out? Alarm clock? No. No. You just starved for 8 hours.
Daylight.
You're starving. You're hungry. So what is the body doing? It's kicking up cortisol to do what? Mobilize fat and sugar. You see how it works? So first thing in the morning, you want to have this shot of cortisol. Okay? First thing in the morning. You should wake up and feel amazing. You shouldn't feel, oh my God, the alarm went off. It was exhausting. You should wake up, hey, I'm ready. I'm ready for my day. Now melatonin, which is the purple one, should be low in the morning, right? You should have low melatonin because you're not sleeping, and high cortisol. Then throughout the day, as cortisol goes down, melatonin goes up and it crosses at bedtime. So what are you feeling now? It's time for me to go night-night. Okay? And you fall asleep and you go through the same pattern over and over again. Now the problem is when we push our adrenals too hard, when we give ourselves stress, the 4 stressors, you have a blip at 3 o'clock in the morning. So guess what happens if cortisol skyrockets at 3 a.m.? What's going to happen to you? Good morning. And you're wide awake at 3 o'clock in the morning looking at your wristwatch. Why am I wide awake? I don't understand. Okay? And then what happens? You fall back to sleep and then you wake up with what? That loud, obnoxious alarm, which you have 5 alarms, you hit the button 60 times. Why? Because your cortisol is in the toilet and your melatonin is skyrocketing. This is the opposite. So this is telling you to go night-night, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what do you do on the weekends?
Sleep.
You sleep in, trying to correct for this, right? And you end up at bedtime when it's time to go night-night, your cortisol is skyrocketing. What are you? I can't go to sleep. So what do? You reach for your cell phone, which has that bad light, the blue light that comes through, which makes you wake up, it fires up even more cortisol, or you watch television and flip through the channels doing the exact same thing, waking yourself up. Okay? So this is called adrenal fatigue. That's perfect. That's adrenal fatigue. Over here at the end, we get to the extreme. Now the adrenals are burned out. They're done. They're shut off. So what happens? You're waking up in the middle of the night, and you can't wake up throughout the day because you're never getting a burst. Melatonin stays skyrocketed, cortisol stays low, and you're just exhausted all the time, no matter what you do. Okay? Make sense? Now, how do you know if you're in an extreme pattern? Pretty simple. If you do a monster drink, a triple shot of espresso at Starbucks, or 15 coffees throughout the day, and you go, it doesn't bother me at all, Dr. Ray. That's because it doesn't kick the adrenals. Because adrenaline is stimulated by caffeine. It's called the sympathetic, and that's the upper part of your back that stimulates the adrenaline response. So that's all back to adjusting again, right? So those are the different patterns. So that if you're having either one of these, this is what you want to do. You want to stimulate what's called the cortisol activation response. First thing in the morning, if you're like this guy or this guy, when you wake up, first thing, I want you to get your butt out of bed. Okay? Don't succumb to the thing. Open up it's nice time of year, open up the shades, first thing. I don't care how much you hate that light, because melatonin's telling you go night-night. You need to change the position, change it, and you're going to stimulate light, which is going to fire up cortisol right away, and melatonin is going to start dropping right away. Make sense? You have to do this right away, okay? Let me come back to that. I'll finish up. I got a better slide. So go to the 9 side. This is called the cortisol activation response, or your CAR system. How do you know you're having car troubles? Okay, your blood pressure starts to increase. Remember, aldosterone, right? That's high blood pressure. You're unable to focus and remember. Because of the exhaustion, you can't get that stimulation through your neurotransmitters. You get frequent colds and flus. It suppresses. Low cortisol causes increase in immune system fatigue. Okay, you sleep late on the weekends because you're trying to recover, if you will. Sugar's creeping up. Why? Because what's happening, it's slowly increasing as you're kicking the adrenals. Now, ultimately, sugars will collapse. You end up hypoglycemic, but in the beginning, you end up hyperglycemic. You can't shed the fat. Cortisol is fat-loving and sugar-loving, right? You consume caffeine all day trying to get juice, okay? And you can't stop hitting the snooze button. That's a classic car patient, okay? How do you fix that? Oh, irritable and moody, okay? That's another one, too, okay? Because you're changing all those neurotransmitters. How do you stimulate the core response? First thing in the morning, you take 1 to 4 teaspoons of what's called nitric balance. Now, nitric balance is going to stimulate the CAR system right away. And you're going to take it until you feel a flush, like a hot flash, if you will. That way you know that you've stimulated your adrenaline. So you're going to flip open the shades. You're going to take 4 shots of this stuff until you feel the flush. Now, don't do more than 4, even if you don't get the flush, because you may be totally depleted. That's the nitric balance. And then you're going to jump up and do burst training. Okay, what's burst training? Okay, that's on, off. Max T3. You all should have the video. If you don't have it yet, get it. We have it online as well. You're going to stand up and you're going to run in place as hard as you can for 30 seconds. You're going to run, and you're going to stimulate adrenaline. Okay, you're trying to get cortisol up. This is going to crank it. That's going to crank it. Now, don't do more than 5 minutes. Because what's going to happen? You're trying to stimulate cortisol. If you do too much, you're going to deplete yourself. And these are the people that when you exercise, you don't feel energized afterwards. You feel like you want to take a nap. Okay? That's classic adrenal fatigue. Okay? So no more than 5 minutes in the morning. First thing. Okay? Make sense? All right, let's move on. Okay? Oh, then the other thing you take is it's called acetyl-CH. Now, acetylcholine, okay, let me back up a little bit, talk some neurology, okay? You have the sympathetic system, which is the fight or flight. That's the part of the nervous system that makes your body fire up the adrenals to get energy, okay? It's called the sympathetic adrenaline or adrenergic system. On the other side of the coin, you've got the parasympathetics, which is the chill out, rest and digest part of the nervous system, which is stimulated by a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. Okay? So this will stimulate the burst, then you take the acetyl-CH to bring it back down. You see what you're doing? You're trying to stimulate that CAR response. You're getting your normal melatonin balance and the inverse sine wave. Are you following me? Yeah? Guys, give me a head bob or something. Am I talking too technical? Hopefully I'm not talking too technical for you. Okay, and there's your acid.